I never thought I'd laugh at the sound of an airbag exploding. But that morning, watching Karen's gray SUV crumple against my mailbox fortress, I actually choked on my coffee. The whole street echoed with the crash, and in that split second, I realized karma sometimes drives a luxury crossover. But before we get there, let me take you back to how this ridiculous suburban war began. It started with a soft thump in the middle of the night. I figured it was just raccoons rummaging through the trash again, so I rolled over and went back to sleep. The next morning I found my mailbox lying on the ground like it had passed out drunk, bent cracked, barely hanging on by a bolt. Weird, but whatever. Maybe a delivery truck got too close. I hammered it back in, wiped the dirt off, and told myself it wasn't a big deal. 2 days later, it happened again. Only this time the whole post was ripped out like someone had taken aim. That's when I realized this wasn't bad luck. Someone was targeting me. My poor mailbox was becoming a repeat victim in some twisted suburban demolition derby. Every night I'd find it knocked over. Sometimes tire marks streaked through my grass. Other times the post was splintered clean in half. I rebuilt it again and again, different materials, thicker wood, deeper holes, and somehow it kept ending up trashed. I even tried staying up with a flashlight one night, camped out in my window like some low-budget detective with a bag of beef jerky for company. But whoever was doing it had perfect timing. They always struck when I was asleep in the shower or out for groceries. I asked around the neighborhood, but nobody saw a thing. One guy said he heard an engine rev around 2 a.m. Another swore he'd seen a gray SUV idling near my driveway. Problem was, half the HOA drove gray SUVs. That's when I went to the HOA office. I brought photos, 4 rounds of mailbox murder lined up like crime scene evidence. And there she was, sitting behind the desk, Karen, HOA president, reigning queen of suburban doom. Her smile was the kind that made you want to check your wallet, polite but venomous underneath. Someone's been repeatedly hitting my mailbox, I told her. It's been 4 times now. I've filed reports, nothing's been done. She tilted her head like a confused parrot. "Oh, your mailbox," she said slowly. "Maybe it was the wind, or a delivery truck. Those posts can be fragile." I stared at her. "It's not the wind, Karen. There are tire marks, bent metal. This is deliberate." She gave me that HOA tone, the one dipped in fake authority. "Well," she said sweetly, "I'll look into it. In the meantime, please make sure your mailbox meets HOA standards. Correct color, correct height, approved materials. We wouldn't want to issue a fine." I almost laughed. My mailbox was being murdered, and she was threatening to fine me for the corpse not being up to code. Still, I rebuilt it. Again. New post, new paint, a reflective strip just to make sure it was visible from space. And for a week things were calm. No tire marks, no crashes, nothing. Then one morning I saw Karen jogging past my house in that blinding pink tracksuit of hers. She waved at me, big smile, no warmth behind it. I remember thinking maybe she'd actually taken care of it. Maybe she warned people to slow down. Maybe for once, HOA justice worked. I was wrong. It was a Sunday morning. I was sitting by the window with my coffee, half awake, wearing socks, and absolutely no patience. That's when I saw her SUV creeping up the street. Same gray, same smug energy. She slowed down near my yard, looked both ways, and then floored it. The impact was so loud I actually jumped. My freshly built mailbox exploded into splinters. She backed up, rolled over it again for good measure, then calmly parked her car like she hadn't just committed a federal offense. I stormed outside, coffee still in hand. "Karen, what the hell was that?" She stepped out, visor down, all innocence. "Oh, I didn't see it there," she said. "It just came out of nowhere." I pointed at the crater where my mailbox used to be. "It's been there for 5 years." She shrugged. "Well, it didn't match the approved HOA color anyway. Yours should be antique bronze, not whatever. Depressing gray this is." "You mean the same gray as your car?" I shot back. Her face twitched. "It's not my fault your mailbox wasn't up to standard. Technically, you're lucky I don't fine you for this mess." That was it. The moment everything clicked. Karen wasn't clueless, she was enjoying this. She was using her little HOA badge like a shield, convinced she could do whatever she wanted, and she thought I'd just roll over like everyone else. But she was wrong. That night I sat staring at the broken pieces scattered across my lawn. The anger simmered into something heavier: doubt. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it wasn't her. What if it really was an accident? Maybe I was the crazy neighbor everyone whispered about. I almost convinced myself to drop it. Almost. But then I remembered her smirk, the way she said, "Lucky I don't fine you." That smug satisfaction of someone who thinks they're untouchable. And that's when something in me snapped back into place. I wasn't crazy. I was done being her victim. So I made a plan. The next weekend I went full engineer mode. I built a new mailbox, but not just any mailbox. This one was going to be indestructible. I buried a thick steel beam deep into a block of concrete. I welded half-inch cold-rolled steel inside the wooden post. I painted it the exact shade of gray she hated, just to twist the knife. It looked harmless, ordinary even, but inside it was solid iron. Then for good measure, I installed a hidden camera with motion detection. And to keep things festive, I glued a fake squirrel on top. A nice little touch of suburban humor on what was essentially a trap. 2 days later I was back in my usual spot, coffee window, waiting. Like clockwork, that gray SUV rolled down the street. She slowed down near my driveway just like before. I could almost hear her internal monologue. "Let's teach this guy a lesson." And then she hit it. The sound was glorious. A deep metallic thunk, followed by the hiss of an airbag deploying. Her front bumper folded like a soda can. My mailbox didn't move an inch. I nearly spat out my coffee laughing. Karen stumbled out of her SUV, dazed hair sticking out in every direction. She stared at the mailbox like it had personally betrayed her. I opened my front door, still holding my mug. "You might want to get that bumper looked at, Karen," I called out. Funny how the mailbox didn't appear out of nowhere this time. Her face turned red. "This is a safety hazard," she shouted. "I'm reporting you to the HOA. I grinned. "Go ahead. I've got footage. Every angle. Want me to send it to your insurance too?" She froze. You could see the panic in her eyes as the realization set in. She'd been caught, and she knew it. Without another word, she climbed back into her car bumper, scraping the pavement as she sped off. I just stood there watching her drive away, mailbox shining like a steel monument to poetic justice. The next week, I went to the neighborhood watch meeting. I didn't have to say much. I just queued up the footage from my camera, hit play, and watched the room go silent as Karen's SUV rammed the mailbox in glorious 1080p. Then came the laughter. Loud, contagious, unstoppable. People actually clapped. Karen didn't show up to the next HOA meeting, or the one after that. Eventually, word spread that she'd stepped down for personal reasons. I like to think the reason had 4 flat tires and a dented hood. As for my mailbox, still standing, not a scratch. Painted gray, exactly as she hated it now. A local legend. Kids ride by on bikes and call it the unbreakable box. And me, I just sit by the window some mornings sipping my coffee, looking at that little fortress of steel, remembering that day. Because sometimes justice doesn't come from courtrooms or fines. Sometimes it's a mailbox that refuses to back down. Lesson learned. Never underestimate quiet people. We might build something that hits back harder than you ever could.